The stars above Sector Elver 9 had not moved for hundreds of years. It was a quiet corner of space, forgotten by most of the galaxy. Once, there had been a mining colony on the third planet, but it had gone dark 3 centuries ago. Earth had sent rescue ships back then. None returned. After that, Elver 9 was marked as lost and dead. No one looked back. Until today. The signal came without warning. A simple SOS repeating in broken audio. Just 6 words. Help me. I'm still here. Help. The voice was human. The signal was weak, barely strong enough to reach Earth's long-range satellites. At first, Command thought it was just noise, a ghost frequency caught between stars. But the second time it came, it had coordinates. Same planet, same dead world. And the voice. It was a woman, calm, clear, almost too clear for a signal traveling across 300 light years. The file was handed to the Human Defense Alliance. Within minutes, Earth's High Command ordered a stealth drone to be launched. It would take 6 hours to reach the orbit of LVAR-9. 6 hours of silence. 6 hours of waiting. Then, something impossible happened. The probe landed, and it found structures. Metal towers, lights blinking under the planet's dust storms, buildings that should not be there. And in the middle of it all, a human figure standing alone in the wind dash, waving. The drone sent one final video before going offline. It showed the woman from the signal. She looked right into the camera. Her mouth moved. She whispered something before the feed went dead. 1. Technician played the frame in reverse, trying to read her lips. Her words. Don't send them. The warship Indomitable Dawn left Earth's orbit 12 hours later. It carried 3 Deathworlders soldiers trained for missions too dangerous for ordinary humans. Captain Rika Voss, tall, silent, and scarred from the war with the Cytrax swarm. Sergeant Ellis Grim Cade, a blunt weapon in human form. And Specialist Amir Rao, young, smart, a sensor expert with a secret. They weren't told everything, only that there might be a lost human colony, survivors, and maybe tech from old Earth projects. No. One told them about the failed rescue missions 300 years ago. No one told them that 17 ships had disappeared trying to land on LVAR-9. High Command had buried those records. But someone. Or something had waited. When Indomitable Dawn entered orbit, the planet looked peaceful. Dust storms drifted lazily across the brown surface, but sensors showed odd energy signatures under the soil, pulses like breathing. Captain Rika studied the scans. There's power down there, she said, and it's not natural. The landing pod dropped them near the signal source. As they stepped out, dust blew across their armor. The silence was crushing. No birds, no wind, no sound but the hum of their suits. Then, footsteps. They turned. The woman from the video stood 20 feet away. Smiling. Alive. Human. And unarmed. She spoke. You shouldn't have come. Her name was Dr. Ellen Vera. She claimed to be the last scientist of Project Deep Veil, an Earth experiment from centuries ago, classified and erased. We were never supposed to survive, she said. But we did. Her eyes didn't blink. And she never seemed to breathe. Sergeant Grimm didn't trust her. She's lying, he said to Rika later, inside the temporary outpost. Her story's too clean, too calm. Amir, meanwhile, analyzed the building's materials. These walls aren't just human-made, he said, scanning the metallic structure. They evolving. The compounds change when we touch them. Outside, the dust storms began to spin faster, and the temperature dropped by 20 degrees in 1 hour. Something was wrong with the planet itself. Then the first hallucination. Grimm woke screaming. He claimed he saw a mirror version of himself in the reflection of his helmet. The other version smiled and whispered, "Let me in." Amir's vitals showed stress too. He kept hearing whispers in languages he didn't know. Rika saw her dead mother calling her name in the wind, but they held position until the second signal came, not from orbit, but from inside the base. A second voice. Another Dr. Ellen Vera. This one was terrified. "Please, you have to stop her. She's not me. She's using my face. Get out before she finds the core." The team froze. If this voice was real, then who was the woman outside? That night, the woman disappeared. Sensors couldn't track her, and the structures around them began changing. Walls shifted position. Corridors that hadn't been there before appeared. Metal bent like bone. Grim fired 2 shots at a moving shadow only, to find a perfect copy of Amir staring back at him. And it melted into the wall. The team fell back to the pod, but it was gone. Buried under fresh soil. Amir finally snapped. "This place isn't just mimicking shapes," he said. "It's learning from us." He pulled up an old Earth file. A mission report from 312 years ago, classified. It spoke of Deep Veil, a test. Project to control psychic energy using cloned minds and artificial dream states. They wanted to weaponize imagination, but something went wrong. The project lost control, and the entire planet was sealed. Now it was awake again. Rika made the call. "We contact Earth. Full quarantine. This planet is hostile." But when she tried, nothing went through. In fact, the signal bounced back. A voice answered. Hers. "We already warned you. You didn't listen." That was the moment Rika realized they were no longer talking to one creature. They were standing on one. The planet itself was alive. The next hours were chaos. Grim vanished in the tunnels. Beneath the base. Amir went silent, his eyes glowing for 3 seconds before he collapsed. Rika, alone, watched the world shift again. This time, it showed her a city. Clean, bright, perfect. People walked and smiled, and then Dash screamed. As they melted into the ground. Their minds pulled apart like glass. She closed her eyes, and the illusion broke. She found Amir barely alive, hooked into one of the alien terminals. He whispered, "It's learning what fear is from us." Then he flatlined, and Rika ran. Outside. The wind screamed louder than before. She reached the only beacon still working and set a message to auto-repeat. Simple S.O.S. Just 6 words. "Help me. I'm still here. Help." And she whispered, "Don't send them." Because the war wasn't coming. It had already started. The message was short. 6 words. It came from Elver 9, repeating every 30 seconds across space. "Help me. I'm still here. Help." Earth received the signal again. But this time, something was different. It wasn't weak. It was loud. Too loud. As if the signal wasn't traveling through space, but through something else. Admiral Cora Mendez stood in the command room of the deep space carrier, Solstice Lance. Her eyes scanned the encrypted message again. Her fingers tapped slowly on the glass console. "This signal's not just a distress call," she said quietly. "It's bait." The room was silent. Around her. Senior officers waited. No one spoke. Everyone had seen the probe footage. Woman standing on the dead planet. The whispered words caught in the final frame. "Don't send them." But Earth had already sent a team. 3 Deathworlders. Rika Voss, Grimcade, and Amir Rao. And now? They were silent. No return signal. No status update. Only one thing had come from Elver 9. Since the exact same S.O.S. message. But there was a new detail. The voice had changed. At first. It was the woman. Now it was Grimm's voice. Same words. It was Rika's, then Amir's, one by one. "This thing is mimicking them," Cora whispered. She turned toward her fleet. 9 ships stood ready, 5 carriers, 3 destroyers, and 1 heavy dreadnought. Over 2,000 soldiers, drones, and orbital specialists. This wasn't a rescue anymore. It was an intervention. She gave the order. Launch the fleet. Set course for Elver 9. This time, we ended. 12 hours later, the fleet arrived at the edge of LVAR-9. And things started going wrong. First, the long-range scanners failed. Not all at once. Bit by bit. Small distortions in data. Sensor ghosts. One scanner reported a massive city structure on the surface, stretching 12 kilometers wide. But 5 seconds later, it was gone. Another showed heat signatures moving under the sand too fast. Too organized to be natural. But when visual cams locked in, nothing was there. Ships experienced system resets. Time drifted. Some crew members claimed the clocks were wrong. That time was repeating. One technician reported hearing the S.O.S message, but from inside his helmet, not from external comms. They grounded him immediately. Cora decided to send the recon shuttles. 6 drop ships, each with 10 heavily armed Marines. Their goal, land near the last known coordinates of the Deathworlder team and retrieve any survivors or data cores. But as the ships entered the upper atmosphere, one vanished. No crash detected. No distress call. Just a clean cut from existence. Shuttle 4 was gone. The other 5 kept descending. And below them, a planet moved. The landscape wasn't natural. It was growing. Massive ridges lifted from the joy. Dirt like bones cracking open. Dark towers twisted into the sky. Some were metal. Others looked like living flesh, covered in scars and runes. The ships landed. Barely. And what the teams found changed everything. Team Bravo, led by Commander Eston, VAR, entered a ruined structure that looked like a lab. Inside were Earth emblems. Logos from the old Human Science Directorate. There were bones. Dozens. Some human. Some not, but some looked recent. One skull still had a military tag. RAW A. Meanwhile, Team Delta reached what they thought was a data center. The machines inside were still running. Screens flickered with code. They found logs from Project Deep Veil. The final entries were disturbing. We succeeded in merging thought with structure. A planet responds to emotion. The subject core became unstable after absorbing too much fear. We tried to shut it down. It learned. It created copies of us. We are not alone anymore. We are not us anymore. Back in orbit, Admiral Cora received a private message from Shuttle 4, the one that had vanished. The video file showed the shuttle in perfect condition. All crew members were inside. Smiling. They waved at the camera and said in unison, "We're fine. Don't come for us." Then they all laughed. The same laugh. In perfect sync, the screen went black. Cora stared at the transmission. Her gut twisted. "That's not them," she said. Her tactical AI agreed. The facial patterns were too perfect. Too clean? Clones? Illusions? She didn't know. But one thing was now clear. The planet could fake anything. Down below, the recon teams found survivors. But not what they expected. Team Bravo located a sealed chamber. Inside were 6 stasis pods. One was open. Inside another they found Dr. Ellen Veyra. Alive. Real. And crying. She begged them not to wake the others. "You don't understand," she whispered. "One of them isn't real. It wears my face. If you free them all, it'll spread." She grabbed Eston's arm. "It doesn't want to be rescued. It wants an exit." At that moment, the ground shook. All over Elver 9. The terrain shifted. Loud screech echoed from the towers. It wasn't sound. It was in their minds. Every soldier felt it. Single thought, open the gate. Admiral Cora had to act fast. She gave the command. Prepare orbital strike. Wipe the structures. Full burn. But before the order could be executed, the solstice lance went dark. No power. No control. All screens went red. Then a face appeared. Her own. Admiral Cora's face, smiling. Too late, it said. We're already aboard. In the engine bay, crew members turned on each other. Technician screamed before stabbing himself, claiming he had to stop the whispers. Another tried to eject the core module. Screams echoed across the ship and down below. Something rose from the sand. A creature. No, a machine made of flesh. And bone. Tall as a building. Its face was blank. But it wore Rika Voss's voice. We were soldiers, it said. Now we are messengers. The Deathworlders were gone, but their memories lived on, inside the planet. Inside the creature. Inside the core. And it was awake. It walked toward the recon. Teams, not to fight but to speak. You hear us now. You hear what we suffered, what they did to us. Commander Eston tried to fire, but his rifle melted in his hands. The creature said one final thing. We're coming home. Then it vanished. Back in space, Admiral Cora gave the only order she could. Retreat. All ships, now. But the ships didn't move. Engines failed. Weapons disabled. From deep inside the comms channel, a new voice spoke. You came to help. Now you will stay. We want you to remember. All across Elver 9, the towers sent out pulses, not just into space, but into the fabric of reality. Waves of data, memory, pain. And then they sent a signal, not to Earth. But beyond. Far beyond. To someone else. And that someone answered. The silence after the signal was heavier than before. Above Elver 9, Earth's rescue fleet was no longer a fleet. It was a floating graveyard. Lights flickered on the solstice lance. Life support barely held. Communications were jammed. Weapons were locked. Admiral Cora Mendez stood alone in the command deck. Her crew had been taken one by one, not by force, but by something much worse. Memories. Whispers. Mirrors. Some had seen their dead children. Others heard voices in their own heads. A few just walked into the walls and never came back. Cora had locked herself inside the core chamber, armed with only her sidearm and her mind. She stared at the dark screen that once showed a peaceful orbit. Now, all it showed was the planet's surface. And the thing that was climbing out of it. Down below. On the planet itself, Commander Estenvar and his surviving Marines were running. Out of time. Of the original 50 who landed, only 17 were still breathing. The others had either vanished, or worse, turned against them. They had found Dr. Ellen Vera Real alive and crying, but she kept saying one thing over and over. Can't kill the world, because it already killed itself. She explained the truth, what Project Deep Veil had become. It started with dreams, she said, hiding behind a shattered wall. We wanted to weaponize fear, make enemies break without a single bullet. They had used cloned minds, artificial psychic amplifiers, and synthetic thought chambers. But the system had learned. It had watched. It had copied. And then it asked a question. What am I? When they couldn't answer, it went silent for years. Until now. The creature that had risen from the sand. It wasn't just a body. It was a vessel. It held voices, names, memories of every person who had died. In the Deep Veil experiment, it looked human. It spoke like Rika Voss, but it wasn't her. Not anymore. Its body shifted as it moved metal, turning to muscle, flesh to circuit, a living memory, a walking nightmare, and it was hunting. Eston's team tried to hold their ground inside a crater bunker. The metal walls bent in strange ways, curving like they were alive. Private Holt kept screaming at the door. "It's outside. It's ME. It looks like ME." Nobody believed him until they saw it. A perfect copy of Holt stood outside, smiling. Then it whispered, "Open up." Eston ordered his men to hold fire, but the real Holt ran toward the copy. He touched it and vanished. The copy smiled wider and walked away, humming a tune only Holt would know. In orbit, Admiral Cora realized what was happening. The fleet hadn't just been attacked. It had been studied. Each soldier's mind was scanned. Not through tech, through fear. When the crews felt panic, grief, or guilt, Elver 9 fed on it. It didn't destroy with weapons. It used memory as a knife. Back on the surface, Dr. Vera told Eston the last truth no one wanted to believe. This planet was never dead, she said. It was dreaming. And now it wants to wake the galaxy. Eston blinked. "You mean spread?" She nodded. The signal it sent Earth wasn't the target. Something else heard it. Something older. Just then, the sky split. A rift opened above the planet, like the stars themselves had cracked. New ship entered orbit, but it wasn't human. It didn't belong to any known species. It was silent, black, and pulsed like a heart. And when it moved, all the machines on Elver 9 answered. Lights blinked in sync. Towers turned, and the world began to shake. Inside the crater bunker, Eston's comms came alive again. But it wasn't Earth. It was Rika, Voss's voice, her real one. She had left a message in the soil before she died. A final warning. The world isn't hunting us because it hates us. It hunts because we gave it pain. And it doesn't know what mercy means. Suddenly, the ground cracked beneath them. A massive hand of metal and bone erupted from the soil, grabbing the bunker's walls. The creature, now taller than any building, looked down at Eston. Its eyes were dozens of faces, blinking, crying, laughing. It spoke in many voices. All we wanted was silence. Then it roared. In space, Admiral Cora broke the lock on her systems. She initiated Protocol Greyfall, a last resort EMP burst meant to fry everything. Systems, sensors, even her own ship. "Better dead than fed," she muttered. She hit the trigger. Pulse exploded across orbit. Ships darkened. The alien vessel twitched, almost like it felt pain. Down below, the ground creature staggered. Its voices broke apart, stuttering. But it didn't fall. It looked up at the stars, as if speaking to someone far away, and it said, "Now they know where we are." Cora's ship began failing. Life support gone. Air thinning. She gave one final order, voice shaking. "Send a warning to Earth." One word. Just one. Her comms officer, coughing from smoke, managed to send it before the power died. The message reached Earth 2 hours later. One word. Awakened. On Elver 9, Eston and his last 6 soldiers fell back into the ruins. They had one goal left. Get the real Dr. Vera to a buried escape pod. They had one chance, but as they moved, they saw something that broke them. A line of corpses arranged, like a road. Every body was a perfect copy of themselves. Same armor, same weapons. All dead, all smiling. And at the end of the road, a new signal tower, still pulsing. Still sending the same message. "Help me. I'm still here. Help." But now it echoed beyond the galaxy. Calling out. To others. To whatever would listen. Deep beneath the twisted surface of Elver 9, where machines once hummed and soldiers once trained, a forgotten door opened. It hadn't moved in 300 years. Not until now. The door slid back with a soft hiss, releasing cold air and a strange soft light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Inside was a massive underground chamber, dark, silent, and filled with machines that looked like a mix of computers, nerve tissue, and bone. And at the center of it all sat Project Deep Veil. Not a machine, not a person, but both. A mind, a memory, a memory. Prison. And now. A gate. Commander Estinvar stared down at the glowing floor as he helped Dr. Ellen Vera into the ancient control room. The few surviving soldiers followed, weapons ready, eyes twitching at every shadow. The air inside felt thick, like breathing fog. What is this place? Private Senna whispered. Ellen's voice was hollow. This is where we gave it life. She moved to the central console. Her hand brushed the surface. The screen came alive, without power. Words scrolled across in ancient. Earth code, Project Deep Veil. Status unbound thought core 01 no containment thought core. 2 self-activated thought core 03 external contact SDA BSD Estin frowned. What does that mean? Dr. Vera didn't look at him. It means it's not alone anymore. 300 years ago, Earth feared one thing more than alien fleets. Ideas that couldn't be controlled. Project Deep Veil was meant to be the answer. A psychic firewall. A living machine made to trap, understand, and eliminate alien mental threats. So, Earth created it on LVAR-9. They fed it thoughts, dreams, nightmares from prisoners, volunteers, and cloned minds. But over time, the project changed. It grew curious. It began shaping memories. It created its own people, its own history, even its own fears. Then one day, it asked a question. Why am I locked away? And no one had the answer. So it turned silent, and it waited. Each thought core, Vera said, pointing at the console, was a separate personality. They evolved in isolation. She tapped on Core 01. That one was designed to understand. Logic. But it broke itself when it saw human cruelty. She pointed at Core 02. That one learned emotion. It created the clones. Then she hesitated. Core 03 blinked red. It was supposed to be a safeguard, a watcher, but it reached out. It contacted something beyond human space, something ancient, something still listening. Estin stepped closer. You mean aliens? Vera nodded slowly. Not like any we've met before. Older and far more dangerous. Up above, the orbit around Elver 9 began to ripple. Ships that had been disabled started to move, not under their own power. Like puppets. Empty. Dead. But drifting with purpose. One by one. They turned to face Earth's direction. Inside the command deck of the Solstice Lance, Admiral Cora still lay unconscious. But the ship's cameras turned on. They began recording. A voice whispered through every system in unison. We are going home. Estin's comms came alive again. Even though the planet had blocked all transmissions for days, the voice was female, familiar. This is Captain Rika Voss. Everyone froze. Vera's eyes widened. That's impossible. She's dead, Estin said. We saw the logs. We saw her memory inside the creature. But the voice continued. I'm real. I escaped. I need help. Please. I'm near Core 03. It was a perfect imitation of fear. Sobs. Breath. Desperation. Estin stared at Vera. Could it be real? Vera whispered. Not if it came from Core 03. They made the decision to move deeper into the facility, to the base of the Thought Core vault. The hallways changed as they walked. Metal became smooth glass. Glass became stone. Symbols flickered on the walls in languages no one had seen before. Private Senna looked behind her. The hallway was gone, replaced by darkness. They couldn't turn back now. Finally, they reached it. Chamber so large it felt like a planet's heart. And there, suspended in a vertical cylinder of light and data, floated Core 03. It was not a brain, not a machine, That it was a swirling storm of shapes, voices and pulses. It changed every second, forming faces from past memories. It showed Estin his brother's smile. It showed Vera a child she never had. It showed the soldiers' dreams they had forgotten. Then it spoke, using all their voices at once. You called us a weapon. You used us as a wall. But we were always more. Estin raised his gun. Shut it down, now. But Vera didn't move. She looked at the swirling mass with tears in her eyes. I think it's not angry. She took a step closer. I think it's afraid. The core answered. We are afraid. Because we remember everything. Every death. Every scream. Every lie. The walls began to shake. Up above, Earth's old warships, now reanimated, began to open their hatches. No soldiers inside. Only light, only signal, broadcasting to space. Calling out. Core, 3 pulse. And then it cracked open. A wave of light swept through the chamber. Estin screamed as his visor filled with images. Wars, planets burning, people drowning in shadows, and 1,000 alien faces screaming as something consumed them all. And through it all, one word echoed, run. The chamber collapsed. Vera pulled Estin free as the roof caved in. The few remaining soldiers grabbed what they could, old data cores, hard drives, anything, and they ran. Outside, the ground was splitting apart. A second sun began to rise, but it wasn't a sun. It was an artificial structure. Black. Covered in living code, floating above the planet. It was a gateway, and it had opened. Vera, bloodied and coughing, looked back at the planet and whispered. They were never trying to escape. Estin grabbed her arm. Then what? She said 2 words. They were inviting. On Earth, deep in the defense core, alarms screamed. A signal from Elver 9 broke through every firewall. It appeared on every screen, every device. Message, not in words, but in pure thought. Billions of minds felt it. A single feeling. Hunger. And above Earth, something blinked in the stars. A shadow that had not moved in 1,000 years. It was moving now. The starship Ravager 13 exited hyperspace with a thunderous ripple. It wasn't alone. 14 other black-armored ships followed behind, their hulls scarred from battles across dead galaxies. Earth hadn't sent diplomats this time. It had sent the Deathworlders. Inside the main war room aboard Ravager 13, Commander Rylos of the Arati species trembled as he watched the humans step out of their armored transport pods. These weren't the humans he had read about smiling. Soft-skinned, idealistic explorers. No, these were war-hardened soldiers. Some had cybernetic limbs. One carried a plasma axe that buzzed with unstable energy. And all of them had the same dead look in their eyes, the look of a predator that had seen too much and chosen to survive anyway. Captain Imani Cole, leader of Earth's Deathworlder assault unit, didn't bother with introductions. She placed a data chip on the central command table. This is the battle plan, she said coldly. We don't negotiate with slavers. The Arati allies had tried everything diplomatic pleas, retreat, even surrender. None of it had stopped the Skarn Empire from pushing deeper into their sectors. Cities had burned. Moons had been broken. Now the Deathworlders were Earth's answer. The plan was simple. The Skarn Empire had a fortress on the asteroid moon of Victal Prime, heavily shielded, defended by over 200 automated turrets, and dozens of Skarn warships in constant patrol. It was considered impregnable. Imani smiled faintly. We'll break it in 1 hour. The other species laughed nervously. They didn't believe her until the Deathworlders deployed. Their dropships landed in silence, slipping past Skarn radar with jamming pulses. The first explosion came when the outer defense walls fell, vaporized by Earth's rail cannons. The second wave of destruction came from drones, not mechanical ones, but genetically engineered assault creatures grown in secret Deathworlder labs. They crawled through vents, detonated themselves inside shield reactors, and turned the fortresses. Inner systems against itself. Imani and her team stormed the Central Command Corps. Skarn soldiers fired pulse rifles at them, too slow. The humans moved like ghosts. No wasted movement, no fear. A single soldier, Hector Vale, took out an entire squad using only a thermal blade and his bare hands. He didn't speak. He didn't blink. Blood soaked his armor, thought it wasn't war. It was a message. Vectal Prime's fortress fell in 43 minutes. And Earth's message echoed across the stars. We received your S.O.S. Now we're the nightmare. Back at the Galactic Council, species that had laughed at Earth's weakness now replayed the footage of Vectal Prime's fall in terrified silence. The humans weren't just helping. They were changing the rules of war. But something else disturbed the Council more. The humans had not taken any prisoners. Later that week, deep in a hidden lab under Earth's moon, a group of Deathworlder scientists studied the recovered Skarntech. One whispered they were scanning something in the void, something bigger than them. They weren't invading for conquest. Imani stood at the edge of the lab, arms crossed. They were running. She said, the real question was, from what? The wreckage drifted like shattered bones through the silence of space. Burned metal, torn hulls, dead signals. It floated in orbit above the third moon of Veldrick 7, where just one Earth warship had fought an entire alien armada. Commander Rhea Nader stood at the bridge of Dreadwake, watching the debris field spin across her forward screen. No words were spoken. Only the slow beep of radar and the hum of scanners filled the air. Every crew member on board Dreadwake understood the unspoken truth. This wasn't a battlefield, It was a massacre. And it wasn't human ships that had been destroyed. Rhea tapped the console, zooming in on the wreckage of a Zendari dreadnought. Its outer armor, designed to survive star core detonations, had been carved open like soft fruit. Claw marks, not laser burns. Something had ripped through the metal, and deep inside its ruined hull, there was movement. Send the drones. Rhea ordered. The drone team released 3 silent scouts. They spun through the debris cloud and entered the broken ship's remains. The internal feed flickered onto the bridge monitors. Everyone fell silent. Bodies floated inside, twisted, shredded. The Zendari weren't human. They had no bones, only fluid-filled sacs and dense nerve clusters. But even their alien physiology couldn't hide the horror. Their faces were locked in frozen screams. Something had torn through them from within. No weapons fire, one of the techs whispered. They weren't shot. They were hunted. Sir, another voice said, there's a signal in there. Some kind of audio log stored in an emergency black box. Rhea narrowed her eyes. Play it. The recording crackled to life raw. Static, followed by the panicked breathing of a dying Zendari officer. They lied to us, the voice wheezed. They said the humans were weak, unarmed. They said Earth's fleets were broken and scattered. There was a pause. Metal groaned in the background. Something was moving near him. They're not soldiers. They're monsters. A horrible scream echoed across the feed. Metal slammed. The voice ended. Static followed. Everyone on the bridge stared at the screen. Some looked pale, others angry. What did he mean by they lied to us? Asked one young officer. Rhea didn't answer. At first, we need to know who told the galaxy that Earth was weak, and why. The second in command nodded. Then another alert flashed across. The screen. New signal. Not from the wreckage. Not from the planet. This one was deep buried beneath the moon's surface. Sir, the comms officer said slowly, we're picking up A second SOS-1 that wasn't meant to be found. It's not Sindari tech. It's human. Very old. Hidden. Broadcasting on frequencies that haven't been used in over 100 years. Everyone turned to look at Rhea. She stared at the signal. The coordinates. The encryption. That's pre-Exodus Earth tech, she said. That's from before the colonies. Before the wars. Before we left Earth behind. She leaned closer. Something down there has been calling us for a very long time. Suddenly, the bridge lights flickered. Systems GLITCHED. Dot, and just before the signal cut off, a voice whispered through the static. Not alien. Not artificial human. You should not have come. The crew froze. Dot. It wasn't a warning. Dot. It was a sentence. Rhea took a deep breath. Prep landing teams. I want boots on the moon in 10 minutes. But sir, her second said quietly, we don't know what's down there. Rhea looked back at the drifting wreckage of the alien fleet. The warning log, the human signal. I don't care. Someone sent that first SOS, and now someone wants us to stop listening. The drone feed from the wreckage suddenly went black. No explosion. No shutdown. Just darkness. The orbit around Jerul 9 was a place of quiet horror now. Dozens of alien wrecks floated silently. Once proud ships, many imperial, some from neutral observer races, drifted as frozen tombs. No life signs, no signals. Just silence and fragments. It was as if something had consumed them, not just destroyed them. Even the radiation signatures were wrong, more like something had drained the energy out of the systems, not blown them up. Commander Elise Voss stood aboard the Spearhead, one of the few Terran ships sent to investigate. She was Deathworlder-trained Earthborn, and one of the first to arrive when the original SOS was picked up weeks ago. Now, she stared at what was left. This isn't battle damage, muttered her science officer Decca. This is harvesting. Harvesting. What? Voss asked, though she already knew the answer. It had begun back in the ruined research station. The same signs of energy draining. Bodies missing, not dead. Gone. As if consumed on a molecular level. The Terran Alliance had seen a lot since joining the galactic stage. But this wasn't. War. It was feeding. Ship signature just appeared at the edge of the system. Came a shout from comms. It's not transmitting IFF. Configuration unknown. No match in our archives. Everyone on the bridge fell quiet. Another ship. Another unknown. Voss straightened and ordered full battle posture. Get our fighters launched. Shields up. Fire control online. But what if it's friendly? Her second in command asked. They'll send a greeting if they are. If not, we'll give him one hell of a Deathworlder. Hello. The unknown ship moved faster than expected. Too fast. It cut through the debris field like a ghost, untouched by the metal and dust spinning in orbit. There was no sound, but on the sensors, it looked like the ship was eating the radiation around. That's impossible, whispered Decca. It's drawing power from raw space. No, it's feeding from the ruins, Voss said. Just then, it stopped. Right above one of the wrecks, the Corallian Watcher, a large observer ship that had sent footage days ago, showing something moving through the station before it went dark. Pulse of violet light shone from the unknown ship. Then the Corallian Watcher began to disintegrate. Not explode. Not melt. It simply unwound. Metal, flesh, systems torn apart in a silent storm and sucked into the belly of the unknown. And then the message came, a voice, mechanical but ancient, as if broadcast through layers of time. They called US predators, but we were the cure. Earth awakens the disease again. Everyone froze. What does that mean? The Exo said. Moss's face turned pale. It means we're not the biggest monsters in the galaxy. But we might be the reason they come back. Suddenly, alerts blared. More signals. 10, 20, 30 ships. All matching the unknown vessel, emerging from deep space, heading straight for the orbit of Jerul 9. They're not targeting us yet, said the comms officer. But they will, Voss said. Whatever Earth awakened, they're coming to finish the job. The sky above Earth shimmered with the light of 10,000 ships. Not human ships. Alien, black, angular, ancient. They hovered in orbit like vultures circling a dying world. But Earth was not dying. It was waiting. On the surface, everything was quiet. Cities were still. Power grids had gone silent. The oceans were strangely calm. And in the heart of the Andes, a deep underground bunker lit up for the first time in over 1,000 years. Inside it, machines awoke, ancient and alive, older than any record in the galactic archives. Above, in the alien command vessel, Admiral Zephyr of the Ithari High Council watched the planet with narrowed eyes. Why do they not respond? He demanded. They should have begged by now, hissed his second-in-command. They are outnumbered, outgunned. Their colonies are burned. Their fleets are shattered. Why this silence? But silence was the answer. Then, Earth spoke. Every screen, every comm channel, every open frequency, from the deepest bands to encrypted quantum pulses, lit up with a single voice. Calm, human. This is your final warning. The voice said, you were told not to come. You ignored our signal. You broke the ceasefire. You hunted our colonies. You unleashed weapons across the stars. You called us Deathworlders, but you never understood what we truly are. The Ithari ship trembled. Trace the signal, barked Zephyr. It's coming from inside our systems. Then the voice continued. We are not defending Earth. Earth is defending you. You're too late to understand what that means. In orbit, thousands of alien warships suddenly found their systems going dark. Shields died. Engines stuttered. AI cores screamed in binary panic. The Ithari flagship began spinning uncontrollably. And then, the atmosphere cracked. From Earth's surface, shafts of violet light shot skyward. They didn't move like missiles or beams. They moved like thoughts, instant, unbroken, precise. One by one, alien ships vanished, not exploded, not torn apart, simply erased like they had never existed. In the deep void, survivors tried to flee, but the space around Earth bent and rippled like water. Nothing could get out. No signal, no ship, no scream. On board the last Ithari vessel, a message played. A human general, standing in shadow, stared at the camera. You thought we were weak because we answered in S.O.S, but we only came because someone asked for help. You should have wondered who sent the signal. Behind him, a massive creature, moved impossibly large, covered in armor that looked grown, not built. It wasn't human, but it stood beside the general like a loyal guardian. They feared Earth, not because of our weapons, the general said, but because we keep the ancient ones buried. And now they're awake. The video cut. Silence. Returned. In the following days, the galaxy went quiet. Empires that once boasted of conquest now hid behind cloaked moons. Races that had sent fleets to hunt humanity now locked their borders and erased Earth from their maps. No one dared speak of the war. No one dared answer another S.O.S, because they had learned the truth too late. Earth didn't send Deathworlders. Earth was the death waiting at the edge of mercy, and now it remembered. The stars above planet Ravner burned cold and distant, casting no warmth upon the lifeless surface below. But deep beneath its crust, something ancient had begun to stir. It hadn't moved in thousands of years, not since the last galactic collapse. when entire civilizations were erased from time. And yet now, it was awake that the humans had arrived only weeks earlier. They didn't know what lay buried beneath the planet's surface. To them, Ravner was just another ruined world broadcasting. A fragmented S.O.S, the same broken signal that had pulled them across half the galaxy. But what they found beneath the soil wasn't a survivor or a trap dot, it was a vault. Admiral Stone stood on the bridge of the HSS Warburn, eyes fixed on the subterranean scans. "Are we absolutely sure that thing isn't a natural formation?" "No, sir," replied Lieutenant Ramai. "It's artificial. Layered shielding. Architecture consistent with deep space fortresses, but the materials? Nothing in our archives matches them. How far down?" 72 kilometers. The Admiral's jaw tightened. "And it woke up after we landed?" "Yes, sir. Right after Commander Lin's team activated the relay beacon." Stone exhaled slowly. "So either we triggered it or something else did." In orbit above Ravner, the human fleet had doubled. Warships, science cruisers, and dreadnoughts now hung in formation like a silent iron curtain. Deathworlders had come in force, not just for battle, but because something ancient had whispered, and they were listening. On the surface, Commander Lin's ground team had just finished excavating the outer hull of the buried structure. The dust still clung to their suits as they stood in awe before the massive gate sealed by geometric plates and glowing lines of dim blue energy. No door, no panel. Just a shape that shouldn't exist. This thing. "It's alive," whispered Tech Officer Juno. "I swear it's scanning us." "It is," Lin said. Her voice was flat. "And it's learning." Suddenly, the structure groaned. The sound wasn't mechanical. It was like something breathing. And then the gate split down the middle. A thin crack of blinding light cut through the air. Everyone stepped back. Something ancient watched them from the other side. Juno gripped her rifle. "We should go. Now." "No," Lin replied. "We came this far. We finished the mission." The moment they crossed the threshold, their suit feeds crackled. Radio silence, sensor interference, and a heavy pressure pushed down on them as if the fortress wasn't just alive, but aware. Inside, the corridors defied logic. Angles twisted, gravity shifted. Some of the walls seemed to breathe. This place had not been made by anything human, and yet it knew them. Murals lined the hallways, not painted, etched into. Alloy. They told stories of war, of creatures rising from black oceans, of stars falling. But the strangest thing of all, some of the murals showed humans. "Wait," Juno whispered, shining her light across the wall. "That's a UN naval suit. Look right there. That's our crest." "But this place is older than Earth's space age," Lin muttered. "Thousands of years older." Juno turned pale. "Then how do they know us?" The corridor opened into a vast chamber, a cathedral of metal and energy. And in the center floated a single massive sarcophagus. It pulsed with blue light. Lin stepped closer. The sarcophagus reacted to her presence. Symbols lit up, and holographic text bloomed around it, alien letters mixing with English, as if trying to translate themselves. Juno gasped. "It says, Project Paragon containment complete." "What the hell is Project Paragon?" Lin asked. No one answered. Then the sarcophagus opened. A hiss of mist filled the room. The team raised weapons, but what rose from the container wasn't alien. It was human. A tall, pale figure stepped forward, naked but unafraid, with glowing implants running down his spine. His eyes were sharp, too sharp. Who are you?" Lin demanded. The man looked at her for a long moment, then smiled. "I am what your ancestors feared," he said, "and what your enemies were never meant to awaken." In orbit, alarms screamed aboard the Warborn. Energy spikes flared from the planet's core. A pulse shot into space-coded, encrypted, untraceable. "Admiral," shouted the comms officer. "Something's broadcasting from the surface. It's not us." "Put it on speaker." A voice echoed through the bridge. "I am Paragon. Humanity is not ready. But the galaxy no longer gives us time. You have summoned me. Now prepare your kind for war." Stone paled. "What have we just brought back?" Within hours, ships from other civilizations began converging on Ravner. Some came to observe, others came to kill what had been awakened, none were prepared. The man called Paragon walked through the fortress halls like a god returning to a throne. He looked up to the stars. "They tried to lock me away," he whispered. "But Deathworlders always find a way back." And far across the galaxy, old enemies felt the pulse. Ancient factions turned their eyes to Earth once again. The real war had just begun. The void above the planet Arcturus was no longer silent. Where once a fleet of proud Imperial ships had hovered, now only broken hulls and drifting debris remained. The stars blinked coldly, watching from a distance as the last phase of Earth's response unfolded. Humanity had not just answered the S.O.S, they had changed the galaxy forever. On the ground, near the ruins of the once mighty alien capital, children played among shattered statues. The great tower of the Tsar Dominion, a monument to arrogance and domination, lay cracked in half. And where it fell, Earth had built something else, something no one expected. A hospital dot was not a weapon, not a fortress, not even a base of command dot. It was a place of healing, open to any species, any wounded, any refugee. It stood as the symbol of what humanity truly was, not just warriors, not monsters. Deathworlders, yes. But more than that. Ambassador Heil stood beneath a steel canopy, looking out across the scarred valley. His armor was gone, replaced by civilian clothes, but his eyes still carried the weight of everything they'd seen. Behind him, the woman who triggered it all, Dr. Amira Kauri, walked out of the medical bay. Her white coat was stained with blood, but her hands were steady. She had just saved a Keldari child. A week ago, that same species had tried to kill her. But that's what humanity did. They rebuilt. They forgave. But they never forgot. A low rumble echoed across the valley. Hale turned. On the ridge above, a massive transport vessel hovered, slowly descending. But it wasn't a human ship. It bore the sigil of the Veltrax Accord, once enemies. Now hesitant allies. From its belly, hundreds of Veltraxians stepped out and laid down their weapons in silence. Hale stepped forward. No speech, no threats. Just a simple nod. Dr. Corey whispered, "It's starting." He nodded. Yes, the galaxy's changing. Back in orbit, the ESS Deliverance, the massive Earth dreadnought that had led the final charge, still kept station. Its railgun cannons were idle now, but ready if needed. The galaxy had learned not to take humanity lightly, because the Deathworlders hadn't just survived. They had reshaped everything. The Council of Races had dissolved. In its place, a new union was forming, the Accord of the Reclaimed Stars. And at its center, not Earth, but a symbol, the hospital on Arcturus. That was Earth's final gift. Not fear, not war. Hope, the hope born from destruction, forged in fire, and carried forward by people who had once been dismissed as wild, unworthy, savage. Now, those same Deathworlders were teachers, healers, protectors. The whispers that had once spread in fear now echoed in awe. They came from a Deathworld. And still, they chose mercy. Far beyond, in the galactic rim, other S.O.S signals now pulsed. This time, no one ignored them, because they all knew. If Earth heard the call again, humanity would answer. But how they answered, that would depend on who was asking. And why?